Hello, you beautiful group of conspiritualists, if you like that name. I like it. Today I'm going to give you a message that came from the Jesus Energy. It's a beautiful message, and I'm sure it'll be one that'll help us all. I'll tell you all about it on the other side. So I was communing with the Jesus Energy, and I said, do you have a message for everybody? And they said, yes, we've got a message of great hope for the people. And I said, tell me what it is. And the very first thing they gave me was this. They said, but know this, that in the last days, critical times hard to deal with will be here. Now that's a scripture from the second Timothy, okay? And I know that scripture very well because it was hammered into me when I was a Jehovah's Witness. So I was completely confused by that. Know this, in the last days, critical times hard to deal with will be here. And I thought, what's good about that? What's the good news? And they said, there's good news in that. Because the words, the last days, are telling you that we're in the last days. That means it's nearly over. That means that this is not going to go on forever. It's the last days, right? They're coming to an end. And that's what the good news is about. It isn't that it's critical times hard to deal with. We know that. I mean, a one-eyed man on a runaway horse would be able to tell you that. Critical times hard to deal with. But it's the fact that it's the last days. We're in the last bit. We came specifically here to be in the last bit, okay? But that's where we are. Now, look, they're quoting from the Bible, right? It's absolutely understandable because this is the Jesus Energy. But they're quoting from the Bible because I know the Bible. If I didn't know the Bible, they wouldn't quote scriptures from the Bible. They would do something else. They would give me another metaphor. But because I know the Bible, then they're able to give me the idea of what this message is, and out come these things from the Bible, okay? And I'm not for a moment telling you that I believe the entire Bible. And I'm not for a moment telling you that the Bible is inspired of God, right? I'm not saying that. However, there are bits in it, just as I quote from lots of other books and lots of other authors, there's some beautiful bits in it that I really resonate with me and that I think are valuable, okay? So, listen to the scripture, right? This one in Timothy. I'll just read a bit, right? Because it's describing where we are now. But know this, in the last days, critical times hard to deal with will be here, for men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, haughty, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, disloyal, having no natural affection, not open to any agreement, slanderers, without self-control, fierce, without love of goodness, betrayers, headstrong, puffed up with pride, lovers of pleasures rather than lovers of God, having an appearance of godliness, the Pope comes to mind, but proving false to its power. And from these turn away. Okay? So that's describing where we are. And I don't think, I'm sure in the past we've had moments like this. I'm sure we have. But boy, does that ring true to where we are now. I mean, we're just in the worst hedonistic moment of humankind in this timeline, on this timeline. Okay? But then they went on to quote another scripture, right? I was bombarded with scriptures that day. And they quoted the scripture from Revelation. Now, Revelation's a bit of a dodgy book, okay? It has a lot of bad stuff in it, or explanations of bad stuff that's going to happen. But they quoted this one from Revelation 21:4, okay? And if you know it, well done. If you know, when I say Revelation 21:4, if you know it, well done. This is another scripture that we were bombarded with as witnesses. This is the one that we used to sell for paradise, okay? When we were selling paradise. And it goes like this. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more, neither will mourning, nor outcry, nor pain be any more. The former things have passed away. And I don't even need to read it because I know it, okay? that is what they left me with. And they said, that's where we're going to. So all you've got to do is understand that that's the end goal. That's the end outcome. However, to get there, we've got to go through the last days. That's where we are. That's where we are. And what's important about this? And I was thinking about this. This is contrast. Okay, this is the hero's journey. This is before you get the treasure, and before you're able to return home, you've got to go through certain tribulations and trials. Okay, I was contemplating my life. Okay, and I'd like you to contemplate your life. And I was thinking about the contrast that I have in my life now compared to where it was. What I'm aware of is if I didn't have the negative contrast, something that I can refer to and make this contrast literally with what I've got now, what I have now wouldn't be as nice or as gratifying. Now, if we think about the story of God at the beginning, where there was no contrast, zero contrast. You know, I'm God and that's all I am. And so what the idea, if you believe this, is that God split himself off into tiny splinters, and each splinter was going to go off and find contrast and find a way of returning back to God via the hero's journey. Okay? So I think about when I was bankrupt. If I hadn't have experienced bankruptcy, I wouldn't understand what it's like to live as I do now. I wouldn't appreciate the financial comfort that I've got. If I hadn't have had a terrible, horrible relationship, I wouldn't appreciate the beautiful relationship that I've got now. If I hadn't been a very mediocre, not present father, I wouldn't appreciate the father that I'm able to be with my two sons that I've got now. So everything that I've experienced that has been at the time very, very negative is only there as a contrast so I can appreciate what I've got. If I hadn't worked for the man for 20 years and wasted probably 20% of my life traveling from place to place, I wouldn't appreciate being able to work from home and have my own business and be self-employed. So it's like, without that contrast, life is not as beautiful as it can be. And that's why the hero on the journey has to fight the monster first before he gets the treasure and then goes home. And without the monster, would he really appreciate the treasure? Without having gone without food, without having gone through shithouse emotions, would he really be able to appreciate the nice things that he's going to get? And so when we get to the point where in this scripture, he will wipe away every tear from their eye. Now, the thing is, that's contrast, because we're crying and then we have our tears wiped away. You can't wipe away tears if there's been no tears. And so what that scripture is saying is, expect to cry, but don't worry, because afterwards you're going to have your tears wiped away. That makes sense. So we've got to go through the bad stuff, and then we'll have the nice stuff. And it can't work any other way. Sorry, that's bad news for all the people like me who just want a bit of nice. But that's the way it is. So when the contrast comes, remember, your job is to learn from it, experience it, and then get the fuck out. Okay? Learn and experience as quickly as you possibly can. And then get out. And then move on to the beautiful. And get your tears wiped away. That's where we're heading. And when we get there, it's going to be beautiful. But hey, it's beautiful now. For very different reasons, it's beautiful now. And so we must enjoy the moment even when it's not very nice. And the way that you do that is by knowing that, hey, this is teaching me a lesson. I'm here for a reason, and I'm experiencing this for a reason so that it might help me later on. That's it. That's it. It's hard. It's really hard sometimes. But it's the truth of the matter. Just in your own life experience, you look back at everything that you've suffered What did you learn from that? What did it teach you? The nice bits that we have, well, they're just there to give us a bit of a break whilst we're preparing ourselves to have another horrible bit. Okay. It's the way that this is the way that it's set up. This is what we signed into. This is the contract we signed, okay? Unfortunately, but we chose it. You chose it. I chose it. And so we're stuck with it. Okay? I love you all, and I'll speak to you all later. Bye-bye.